Natural foot and ankle movement are important for both proper walking technique and for running because it affects our posture, it affects our efficiency of movement, and it also determines the amount and type of forces that our body is going to have to deal with when our feet impact the ground. You may not have noticed during that brief walk-on that I placed my foot in 3 different ways, sometimes on the flat of the foot, sometimes on the heel, and sometimes on the ball, depending on the situation. When walking upstairs, I was placing on the flat of the foot. When I was walking forward on level ground, I was placing on the heel. And when I walked down the steps, I was placing on the ball. And I didn't have to think about it because those foot and ankle movements are natural. When we're moving with proper posture and fluidity, our body places our feet in the optimal position for efficiency and for minimizing impact on our joints. But a lot of people end up with joint pains in their feet, knees, hips, and lower back because they're not placing their feet properly. And I'm going to deal with that in this video to help you learn how to do it naturally. There are some people who are trying to figure out whether they need to change their foot placement, whether it's walking or with running, because they're having some issues. And I want to help you to understand how the foot should be placing naturally. Do you need to look at changing your foot strike, or is there something else going wrong aside from how you're placing your foot that might be causing you problems? If you're new to the channel, I'm Dr. Todd Martin, creator of The Walking Code. So follow me over here to the steps where we're going to demonstrate some natural foot placement. First, I'm going to begin by hanging one foot off the edge of the stair so you can see how my foot is going to angle if I keep all of the muscles nice and relaxed. You can see the ankle is slightly plantar flexed, and if I reach down to the ground with this foot, I'm going to end up placing on the ball before then lowering to the heel. The same way if I were doing this facing forward, I would reach down, place on the ball, and then lower the heel before stepping off. That is a very natural movement because it allows us to place while keeping perfectly vertical posture, as opposed to trying to place on the flat of the foot or the heel. If I try to place on the heel, it's virtually impossible to keep normal posture. I end up having to bend over like this to get the heel down to the ground. And that is not good for the spine or other joints. So we need to place on the ball naturally, and most people do that without even having to think about it. Now, we also do that if we were walking in place because it's the same principle. We are pushing down directly underneath the body. And so we place on our balls when we are walking in place. If I'm running in place, it's going to be the same. I'm doing the same motion, pushing down with the ball of the foot. In each of these situations, it is the same action. That push straight down naturally is going to angle the foot downwards, allowing us to place on the ball. Now, does that mean we should always be placing on the ball of the foot? Of course not, because the situations change. If I move my center of mass forward of the standing leg, what you can see is the ankle naturally dorsiflexes or points up. At this point, I have a plantar flexed ankle on my right leg. But as soon as I begin to leg swing, that ankle is going to dorsiflex to allow the foot clearance. If my foot kept pointing down, I might trip over something, and that would be very dangerous. So it's a natural reflexive action for your ankle to dorsiflex as soon as you lift the body in front of the standing leg foot. So that is natural foot and ankle motion. Dorsiflexion before the foot comes down. And that's why when 99.9% of people walk, when they're walking forward, they're placing on the heel of the foot. This is a diagram of the human gait cycle, showing the initial point of foot contact on the heel when people are walking forward on level ground. Now you may have seen some videos recommending that people should try walking forefoot or midfoot first because heel strike is abnormal and locks the knee out and creates an excessive impact. But people who are having pain from excessive impact on the heels, it's not because of the heel strike, it's because they're doing something else wrong, like pushing, leaning over, having an excessive impact like that, overstriding, something like that that's causing an abnormal heel strike. A normal heel strike is very soft. I don't even call it a heel strike, I call it a heel placement, because it should be a soft placement and a gentle roll through the rest of the motion. So if you're having problems, try to work on your posture, standing very vertical and placing the foot softly on the heel. That is going to help fix your issues rather than trying to wholesale change the nature of your gait. And when you're walking downstairs, your body will naturally place on the ball. Don't try to force it. Now I'm going to move the camera back so we can have a wider angle to see the various foot strikes while walking or running. If I'm walking in place, because I'm pushing down, the foot is naturally going to place on the ball. But as soon as I move the center of mass forward of the standing leg, the ankle is going to naturally dorsiflex, placing on the heel. If we're using proper core motion, that heel placement should be very soft and gentle. And we're also going to benefit from the 3 gait rockers that make walking so efficient for humans. That's going to be the heel rocker between the time my heel hits and the forefoot gets to the flat position, followed by the ankle rocker, which is when the tibia advances over the standing leg, and then the forefoot rocker that's going to lift my heel off the ground while I'm placing the heel of the next foot. And then we continue to walk. So those 3 gait rockers are part of why human locomotion, normal walking for people, is extremely efficient and costs not that much energy. Humans can walk for miles and miles and miles at a time without tiring out because it is very efficient if we're doing it correctly. While heel striking benefits from the efficiency of the gait rockers, if we were to walk forefoot first, our feet would actually be retrograding after placing on the balls and having to roll back to the heel. We would lose efficiency here, causing more energy to be required for each step. You can see the change in efficiency as we switch from a forefoot strike to a heel strike with the same body motion. The foot placement changes if I'm going to walk upstairs, where it's going to be natural to place on the flat of the foot. But then I return to the heel when I walk forward, and then I return to the ball if I'm walking down, and then back to the heel. That is natural ankle and foot motion. Now, when we are running, we have the 3 options. First is going to be the heel strike, which is going to be more natural if I'm running very slow, where I'm not pushing off that strongly. So I have to rely on reaching forward with the swing leg for some of that forward progression. If I'm going to be running a little faster and pushing off harder, pushing the center of mass forward, now I can land on the midfoot. When we run midfoot first, the mechanics of the initial push off the ground are the same as when running with a heel strike. The difference occurs after leaving the ground. The swing leg is not flexed forward as in heel strike running. Instead, the foot of the swing leg is brought straight down, resulting in a midfoot landing with the body directly over the foot, not out in front. Many people think this is a healthier way to run, but the verdict is still out on that. I'm not going to dive into the mechanics in this video, but I'll share a link to my other running videos in the description section for those of you who like to go deep on the mechanics. And then finally, if I'm going to push off really hard, I'm going to be able to swing the swing leg forward and then still have time to push down onto the ball of the foot. So that's going to be that sprinting forefoot strike. I'll let Usain Bolt give you a proper demonstration of the forefoot strike running style. You can see the final downward push of each stride that pushes the ball of the foot into the ground, the same as when walking downstairs or running in place. It's the nature of that downward push that triggers a natural forefoot strike, not an arbitrary decision to place on the forefoot. There's a lot of talk that heel striking while running is really bad for the body and can cause injury. But you should be clear that there's no definitive studies indicating that heel strike is worse than forefoot or midfoot striking when running. What has been determined is that heel striking may be harder on the knees and make people more predisposed towards knee pain when compared to forefoot or midfoot striking. However, forefoot and midfoot striking tends to be harder on the ankle plantar flexors, so the Achilles tendon and the calf. So if you're trying to consider whether you need to change your foot strike for running, if you have problems with knee pain, that might be an indication to switch over to a midfoot or forefoot strike. Or if you have Achilles pain or calf pain, you may want to consider changing over to a heel strike if you are a midfoot or forefoot striker. But what I want to focus on in this video is the fact that the foot strike is going to depend on the type of movement that you're doing. So don't try to change your foot strike by changing what's going on in your foot. You have to change what's going on in the body. The entire form of the movement has to change for the foot strike to become different. So whether you're walking or running, don't overthink your foot placement. If you're moving with proper posture, proper core movement, you should be able to place your feet naturally with low impact and maintain good health of all of your joints for a long lifetime. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you in the next one. Have a great day. For those of you who are interested, I'm going to share a link to my mini running technique videos where I discuss mechanics and foot placement. I'm going to do that above or in the description section. Also, for those of you who are interested in a live tutorial session, I'm going to be having one on July 14th at 8 o'clock in the morning Pacific Standard Time. You can have all your questions answered and even have your personal technique reviewed on video. I hope to see many of you there.